Hey everyone, I hope you're doing well today. I want to invite you one last time to take a break with me, to reflect and to prepare your heart for Easter, because it's almost here. In just a few days, we'll be celebrating the resurrection of Jesus. But for Jesus, during Passover week, there was still a lot left to do. We have seen his triumphant entry. We have seen him go into the temple and cleanse the temple to run out the money changers. And now the cross is directly before him. In just a few days, he will suffer and he will be crucified. Before that, though, he institutes the Lord's Supper with his disciples. He washes their feet, they sing a hymn, and then he goes out to Gethsemane to pray. And it's here in Mark chapter 14 where we find another opportunity for ourselves in these final days before the celebration of the resurrection. We have another opportunity to reflect and to prepare our hearts to celebrate this coming Sunday. We see this here in Mark 14, beginning in verse 32. It says, "And they went to a place called Gethsemane. And he said to his disciples, 'Sit here while I pray.' And he took with him Peter and James and John, and began to be greatly distressed and troubled. And he said to them, 'My soul is very sorrowful, even to death. Remain here and watch.' And going a little farther, he fell on the ground and prayed that if it were possible, the hour might pass from him. And he said, 'Abba, Father, all things are possible for you. Remove this cup from me, yet not what I will, but what you will.' And he came and found them sleeping, and he said to Peter, 'Simon, are you asleep? Could you not watch 1 hour? Watch and pray that you may not enter into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak.' And again he went away and prayed, saying the same words. And again he came and found them sleeping, for their eyes were very heavy, and they did not know what to answer him. And he came the third time and said to them, 'Are you still sleeping and taking your rest? It is enough. The hour has come. The Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us be going. See, my betrayer is at hand.'" Jesus, knowing that this night he would be betrayed, he would be arrested, and then tried and crucified, he goes out to the Garden of Gethsemane and he takes his disciples. He asks them to pray, and then he takes with him Peter, James, and John, and he goes off a little further to pray. And we see him wrestling here because Jesus knows not only the physical suffering that is about to come, but even greater the spiritual suffering. He is preparing to take the sins of the world upon himself, my sin and your sin upon himself. And he comes to the Father. And what we see, as Luke tells us, he sweat drops of blood. What we see is that he surrenders his will to God. His will through prayer is lined up with the Father's will. But look at the disciples. Here they are sleeping, missing Jesus, not understanding what's going on the way to Gethsemane. They have all pledged that they would die rather than deny Christ. But yet that very night, they would all desert him. They missed what was going on, even until the resurrection. It wasn't until Jesus was resurrected that they realized Jesus was talking about his death. Jesus was talking about his suffering. He was telling us what was going to happen. As we reflect and as we prepare, I wonder, have we missed Jesus? Are we missing what's going on today, what God is doing in our world today because we're sleeping, because we are taking rest? I just had a friend in my office, and he told me that he can just feel the fear out in our world today. He can sense it in his sons. He can sense it as he was out doing things for the church family. He can sense the fear in the world today. Right now is not the first time God has used a plague to get someone's attention. Pharaoh's heart was hardened. He would not obey, and it cost him his life. Today is a day for caution. I encourage you to listen to the CDC and those in the government over us that are telling us to be cautious, to stay home, to take precautions. It's a day to be cautious, but it's also a time to reflect, because as Christians, we should not have fear. God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and love and self-control. So I invite you today, and I challenge you to reflect, to look inward rather than looking outward at a world that may be fearful. I challenge you, look inward. Are you missing Jesus? Are we so focused on other things, on what we want, that we are sleeping and we are taking our rest and we are missing Christ? I challenge you in these final days as we prepare to celebrate the resurrection. Examine your own heart. Are you missing Jesus today?